Mohammed was born in a small village in northern Rakhine state in Myanmar. He grew up with his mother, father, and 5 brothers and sisters. When he was young, he loved to play with his siblings in his father's rice fields, running around in the sun. As he grew older, he began to notice that life for his family and people was difficult. They were of the Rohingya ethnic minority, which in Myanmar means they were denied the rights to citizenship and many human rights. One night, when Mohammed was 21 years old, armed men came into his village while he and his family slept and began burning down houses and telling the families that lived there that they must leave. Mohammed's leg was badly burned in the fire as they tried to escape. As his father tried to help him to safety, government forces opened fires on the villagers. Mohammed's father was shot and killed in front of his eyes. The family ran, barely escaping with their lives. After a long journey, the family arrived in a refugee camp in Bangladesh. Halfway across the world, in the Sinjar province of northern Iraq, Dalal, a Yazidi woman, was living with her husband Kudayda and their 3 children. The Yazidi people, also known as Yazidi, are said to be one of the world's oldest religious groups and have a history of facing persecution. When Islamic State fighters came to raid their village, they massacred thousands of people and forced many to flee for their lives. These crimes were not the first time that groups have tried to wipe out the Yazidi in acts of genocide. Dalal and Kudayda tried desperately to get their children to safety, but Dalal and her daughters were captured and imprisoned by IS. They were among 7,000 other Yazidi women and girls taken as sex slaves in the Sinjar area. After 6 months of abuse and slavery, Dalal and one of her daughters managed to escape and were reunited with the others in Turkey. Dalal's youngest daughter was never returned to her family, and Dalal's world felt shattered as she carried the burden of not knowing her fate. Life for Mohammed and Dalal's families was uncertain and stressful after they fled their countries. The refugee camp where Mohammed's family were living had extremely poor hygiene and living conditions. In Turkey, Dalal's family tried to find work and access education in the city, but this proved near impossible. Mohammed and Dalal knew there was little chance of a meaningful future for them and their families if they remained in these situations. Mohammed's extended family eventually pulled together all their money to pay for him and one of his brothers to be smuggled somewhere safe. They spent time in Malaysia but had no rights as a stateless refugee, forcing them to make the decision to try to get to Australia. Their journey continued to be chaotic, and Mohammed and his brother were separated, forcing Mohammed to board the boat to Australia without him. Mohammed will never forget the terror of that boat ride. Over 500 people were crammed inside with little space to move or breathe. The journey was treacherous. They encountered large, powerful seas. When he finally reached Australia, Mohammed was detained on Christmas Island. He later heard his brother, who arrived on a different boat, had been sent to Manus Island in Papua New Guinea. No one could tell him when he might see his brother again. In Turkey, after what felt like a lifetime of waiting and hoping, Dalal and her family were finally granted refugee status and were accepted for resettlement to Australia. They traveled across the world in the hope of making a new life for themselves in safety.